This is my Honda Jazz Type R, and this is Santa Pod. Santa Pod Raceway is the most notorious drag strip in the country. It's the host of the FIA Drag Racing Championships, and it regularly sees rocket-powered cars flying down the strip. It's safe to say this is the place to find out exactly how fast any car can tackle the quarter mile. Now, for those of you who have watched my previous videos, you'll know that this Honda Jazz has been a labour of love for me over the past few months. Taking it from this completely standard car to this championship white Type R engine swapped Honda Jazz has genuinely been a dream build for me, and I'm so proud of how far this car has come throughout this process. But I have not yet had the opportunity to thoroughly test out the Jazz Type R's performance. We know from a previous video where we got the car on the dyno that it has around 200 horsepower at the crank. But can it keep up with cars in its class in the real world? That is what we want to find out in this video, and there is no better place to do this than at Santa Pod. So the first contender is this, a completely standard Honda Jazz. This car has the 1.4 litre naturally aspirated engine, it's got about 60 horsepower, and obviously we are expecting the Jazz Type R to completely mince this, but I brought this car along for science sake. I want to see exactly how much faster the Jazz Type R is compared to this. So let's get the cars lined up on the drag strip and answer that question. Right, ladies and gentlemen, first race of the day against the standard Honda Jazz. Let's do it. I'm very excited to see what happens here. Obviously, I pretty much know this Jazz is going to win, but by how much? I'm so interested to see the difference. How much is this going to win by? It's tense. Watching these lights. Oh my god.
Whoa, you missed the gear.
Basically, I think I shifted from third to fourth, but didn't actually get it in fourth. I think I went in neutral and I revved it up and it sounded bad.
Yeah, it sounded like a money shift.
Yeah. So what actually happened during this race? Well, with a time of 17.3 seconds, the Jazz Type R came ahead of the standard Jazz, which came in at 21.6. Now, obviously, I missed a gear and I let off towards the end, so it was a bit slower than it could have been. But either way, the performance difference between these two cars is absolutely crazy, and the Jazz Type R handed the standard Jazz a very considerable gap. Next up on the chopping block, we've got this Civic Type R. As you can see, it's a very interesting looking car. It has the Lamborghini doors, and most importantly, this car has the K20 A2 engine, because this is the UK spec Civic Type R, which is the exact same engine in the Jazz Type R. So this is going to be a very interesting race. The weights of the cars are really going to come into it. This car has been fully stripped out. It's got a roll cage, it's got bucket seats, it's got a racing steering wheel. So it will be very interesting to see whether the Civic Type R or the Jazz Type R puts the power down better. Let's find out which one's going to win. This is race number 2 against the Civic Type R. This is the big one. I really want to win this. I want to prove that Jazzes are superior to Civics.
Windows up, please, buddy.
Windows up? Yep. I completely short shifted the second gear. All the
first. I can't remember which one it was.
That was good though. Yeah. Yeah.
So unfortunately, the Jazz lost out to the EP3. The Jazz completed the quarter mile in 15.2 seconds, whereas the standard EP3 Civic took 15.1 seconds. There wasn't a lot in it, and I definitely think it could have been down to the driving. After watching it back, Tom was definitely shifting faster than me, and alongside that, I also short shifted first gear. But whether that makes up for all of the difference, I'm not too sure, because the Civic did seem to pull away from the Jazz even when both were engaged in a gear. And supposedly, the Civic was running completely standard power. But either way, it was a very close race. Now, if you two are interested in racing and getting behind the wheel, but you don't fancy the risks and costs of doing it in real life, let me introduce you to Asphalt Legends Unite. Asphalt is essentially an awesome free-to-play racing game which is available on PS5, iOS, Android, Xbox, PC, and it's coming soon on Nintendo Switch. They have a huge roster of cars to choose from, including over 250 hypercars, and there's also a brand new garage to display your collection. The graphics have massively improved, and thanks to their crossplay feature, you can play the game with your friends no matter what platform you are playing on. So my favorite game mode is the new Team Pursuit, which is basically a co-op mode where the security team has to score knockdowns on the syndicate team. It is a lot of fun, especially because you can play it with your friends. So if you guys are into racing games, this is definitely one you should be downloading and trying for yourself. And with it being a free game, there is nothing to lose. So scan the QR code on the screen right now, or click the link in the description of this video to download yourself a copy of the game and to receive some extra gifts once the game has been downloaded. But with all of that said, let's get on to the next race for the Jazz Type R. The next contender is this, another EP3 Type R. But this time, this one is the JDM version with the K20A engine, which has 20 extra horsepower over the UK market EP3. This extra power is derived from slightly different pistons, camshafts, and some other alterations such as a higher redline. It also has a limited slip differential from the factory, which helps put the power down, so it is definitely a more challenging race for the Jazz Type R. But the car does have a full interior, and with it also being a manual, the driving will really play a part. Let's see what happens.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, it is white on white Jazz Type R versus white on white Civic Type R. This is going to be an interesting race. Obviously, that car has more power with the K20A engine, so you'd expect that it would win. But obviously, you know, the drivers may have something to do with it. Hopefully I can nail it. I mean, I don't think I've had a proper good start as of yet. So it'll be interesting to see if I can get it right now. That was close. But yeah, you could see that Civic just pull away because of that extra horsepower. But that was a lot closer than I expected. That was fun. You can see your extra horsepower kick in there.
Yeah.
So yet again, the Jazz Type R narrowly missed out on a victory. The Civic came in with a time of 14.9, whereas the Jazz came in a bit slower this time at 15.6. It's safe to say the extra power of the K20A had a part to play. However, I'm not sure if the limited slip diff in the Civic would have affected it due to the race being on a very grippy prepped drag surface. Another thing I want to quickly mention is that the Jazz currently does not have the correct dials and gauges. So whenever it is in VTEC, I have no idea what the RPM is. So I'm often either guessing when to shift or waiting to hear the limiter, which is definitely slowing the car down in a straight line. But even with that, this was a lot closer than I expected. So before a very special race at the end of this video, the next car up to race the Jazz is a third and final EP3. The reason why I decided to get this third Civic to race the Jazz is because, as you can see, it is a bit of a special car. It has carbon fiber everywhere, the red Recaro seats that I decided were far too expensive, and most importantly, it has a load of engine work to bring this car's total BHP up to 254 brake horsepower. It achieves this through cams, an intake, a high flowing exhaust, and of course a remap. So how fast this car actually is in the real world with all of these modifications will definitely help me decide whether I should get all of this work done on the Jazz. So with all of that said, let's get these two cars on the starting line for a final Civic versus Jazz race. But before we do so, if you are enjoying this video, make sure to smash that like button and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Doing those two simple things massively helps out the channel, and it is going to directly contribute to the next build, which is the Volkswagen Fox GTI build, so make sure to subscribe for that. But enough talking, let's see what happens.
Right, it is the final race against the modified EP3, and obviously we are expecting this car to smoke mine, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Whoa, I beat him! That was a good race.
Damn, that is fun.
That was a very good race. That was actually pretty much as close as the JDM EP3 was.
So a very interesting result here. The Civic did beat the Jazz, but only by 0.2 of a second with a time of 15.3. In the second race against the Civic running standard power, the Jazz actually ran a 15.2, so this is a very strange result. Another strange thing is that this Civic crossed the line at 89 miles an hour, whereas the Jazz crossed the line at 93 miles an hour. You can actually see this play out during the end of the race as the Jazz starts to close the gap on the Civic. And after watching back the footage, Ollie didn't lift off the accelerator, so this was a bit baffling, but I had a chat with him after the race and he thinks he might have left his handbrake up a tiny bit, which probably explains this. So to get a fair run, the JDM Civic and the grey modded Civic had a race after this, and these were their times, which is more or less what you would expect considering the power outputs of these two cars. The final car I'll be racing the Jazz against is my favourite car I'll ever own, Boris the Micra. Boris is a 1 litre fire-spitting turbocharged Nissan Micra K11 with over 110 horsepower. This car sounds better than a supercar, looks better than a Victoria's Secret supermodel, and it has just enough horsepower to pull the skin off a rice pudding. This car is my prized possession, and it will be piloted by the main man, Ben Fowler.
Terry, mate.
Ben and I recently recorded a podcast, so if you are interested in that, then I'll leave a link in the description of this video. But for now, let's put my two beautiful creations head to head to see which one is the fastest.
Mate, you've just got to, as I said, rev it off.
You just drop the clutch.
On this surface, possibly not. Maybe feather it a little bit because it might just burn the clutch out. But if it was me, just feather it a little bit, and then as soon as you're in and your clutch is engaged, rev the off it, and then just you wanna wait till the limiter, shift,
don't you worry.
shift, that's the
And do I also go
yeah, actually no, do that. So it is my beloved Boris the Micra versus my Honda Jazz Type R. Which car is going to take it?
Oh my god, this is absolutely hilarious. I can't wait for this. Just don't stall it, then you look like a twat.
think we've got a clear winner there.
Wow! Forrest! This car's mental! Oh my god! There's so much noise! It's so good! It's fun, isn't it? It's so good!
Did you hold it on the limiter?
Yeah! It was Limmy bashing the out of it!
So after one of the funniest races, the Jazz Type R won, but it was a bit slower than previous runs, and Boris came in behind with a noble time of 18.2 seconds, which for a 1 litre car isn't too bad. So after all of those races, I think the Jazz Type R has done very well. Obviously, unfortunately, we didn't manage to beat a Civic in a race, but we did get very close. But with all of that said, if you did go on to enjoy this video, make sure to smash that like button and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We still have a couple videos left to go on the Jazz, such as doing the whole interior and maybe some power mods if we decide to go down that route. And then it is onto the Fox GTI build. So make sure to smash that subscribe button so you don't miss it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.